Hello everyone, my name is Roberto Paz. I am a surgical oncologist from Lima, Peru, and I'm also a senior teaching assistant candidate for Ppcr 2025. Today, I'm going to present to you changing the paradigm in clinical research, the importance of Ppcr program. I would like to start saying that maybe you have listened to the following quote around Ppcr. Ppcr changed my life, and this is so true because you have an idea of what clinical research is in your life before Ppcr and after Ppcr. And today I'm going to give you a scope of what this means for me and for a lot of students and teachers around the globe. What are we going to discuss today? We're going to discuss about the reality of clinical research in my home country, Peru, the methodology of data entry in most of the hospitals in Peru where they are doing some kind of research. Ppcr, a game changer, changing the reality of my home country and the other realities, conclusions, and also some acknowledgments. The reality of clinical research in my home country. As you can see in the graph, the publication, the scientific research that has been done in my country in the last 10 to 12 years has been increasing, and most of this research is devoted to presentations to international conferences and also letters to the editor for many various of scientific journals. But the true process of clinical research is not being undertaken as serious as it should be. Why? Because, for an instance, we don't have at all any industry that's taken into account to have Peru as a main site for publication and clinical research in order to perform phase 3 trials, for example. And number two, most of the international trials that are being taking place in the United States or in Europe are using our sites in Peru, and these sites are being running by top-notch oncologists. For example, I'm an oncologist, so I'm going to speak in the oncology world and also in the internal medicine world. Okay. Now, it's important to say that not all the research that my country is producing is of a high quality level because there are not formal schools of clinical research in our universities. And if you really want to know what's clinical research all about, you have to take international courses, for example, Ppcr. But here I'm going to stop because I have seen some models of another kinds of courses around the globe talking about clinical research, and Ppcr is unique. Okay, so even if in my country clinical research is on the rise, the quality of these scientific publications is not the best. It can be better. Now, when we talk about the methodology of data entry in most of the hospitals in Peru, we're talking about the source of our publications in my country. And what happens? For example, you can go to a hospital where you have residency programs of many kinds of specialties. And there, when the residents come into the hospital to work and to learn, there is already a database that someone else before created. And this database needs new entries from new patients. Okay. So what happens? The data entry workers, in this case, most of the resident corp in the first and second years of formation, they are given these tasks and they have to get the data into these databases and fill these databases with all the information they can get. Okay? And finally, top-notch assistants, top-notch physicians from that hospital look into this database and they create from this database scientific publications because they have encountered a pattern or maybe they have seen a relationship between any risk factor and a disease that they have in the database. And from there, we can create scientific publications. This behavior is generalized in all my country, especially in Lima, which is the capital city. And I believe that is also a reality in some other countries where PPCR can reach. Okay, so having said this, you have an old database. Okay, after that, you have new entries in this database. There, you dig into the data to look for patterns or ideas for publication. And finally, you get those publications. This is the way most of the hospitals and clinical facilities here in Peru are undertaking this endeavor of publishing scientific information, of publishing new articles of scientific data. Okay? And this is a calamity because you already know that this is not the way you should perform clinical research. So, having said this, we can see that it is like a disease that is not being well taught in our schools, in our medical schools, for example, because I'm a physician. And there you also know that if you really would like to have a better understanding of the knowledge in medicine, for example, or any other kind of topic, you really need to look into these new scientific articles in reviews and try to understand what's going on here and trying to aspire to you be the main author of one of these scientific articles. But in the way I have presented to you what's happening in my country, there you can see that we're starting backwards. We're starting first with a database with a lot of variables that someone in all times thought that would be a great idea to download all this data. Then you get all the new residents from your hospital or your clinic, and then you have to say that they should get all the new entries and fill this database. And then the high level physicians, they are going to look into this data and to see if they can publish something from here on behalf of the hospital or the institution. So, where is PPCR in this tale? PPCR is the first and only global international course devoted to clinical research. And our credo, in the manner of speaking, is the image you are seeing on your screen, the research process, where you first identify a problem. Then you do some review of the literature to see if this is really a problem. And there you're going to find your gap of knowledge. If you find your gap of knowledge, then you'll be able to solve this problem to fill that gap of knowledge. After that, you can set your research question, which is really important. Then the objectives, your inclusion criteria, your endpoints, your hypothesis, and finally, you can get the idea of what are you going to do with your research question. That means you're going to choose a study design, then a study population, Finally, you're going to get all the variables, okay, for your research. Then you're going to collect the data. After that, you have to process and analyze that data. And finally, you're going to get some results and you're going to write about it. You're going to have your manuscript. Even if you want to send a new scientific article to a peer review journal, or you want to present your results in an annual meeting in a international congress, for example. And after that, we can see if we have fulfilled all this huge endeavor of creating a scientific article. Okay, so this is the way we should do things, and PPCR is going to teach all the skills necessary for you to be autonomous in scientific research, in clinical research. So I have presented to you what's happening in my country and perhaps in many realities. And this is the proposition, this is the proposal, sorry, that PPCR gives to you. First of all, you have to identify a problem. After that, you have to review the literature to see if that's really a problem and also propose a solution. Or if there is a gap of knowledge, you have to fill that gap. For that, you're going to make your research question. From your research question, you're going to get your population and also your study design. Finally, you're going to get your variables in order to create your database where you're going to work. And finally, you get results and also publications. And this is the proper way anyone in this world should be taking the lead in clinical research. That's why PPCR changed lives in many ways, because you really need to understand the scientific process to understand scientific publications in order to create new scientific publications. So, I will bring some conclusions. First of all, high quality clinical research programs are truly needed, and PPCR, I think it's best international course in order to learn about clinical research. As I've already said it, you're going to be autonomous. You won't need anyone else to do clinical research because you can dig into the literature in order to solve a problem. You're going to create a research question. You're going to create your study. You're going to choose a study design, a study population. You're going to get your variables. You're going to perform the collecting of the data. Then you're going to analyze that data, to process that data. And finally, you're going to write about your results and compare your results with the results of other latitudes, the discussion of any scientific journal. Finally, you will get some conclusions and you will publish in your first scientific article, your first international poster, or any scientific high quality item that you can get. Clinical research should be performed with proper methodology, and PPCR also is going to teach you about this. And by learning the true ways of clinical research, we will obtain high quality scientific publications in our realities. And for me, for example, that I am a surgical oncologist, nowadays I've been kind of a bit far from surgery because I'm working in a field where all I could get from PPCR is really a high quality tool for my day-to-day basis. I need all the time to review new scientific data, to review all new scientific papers related to some kind of molecule that I'm researching. And I'm also producing new scientific knowledge for the good of my patients, for the good of my country, and trying to get a bigger knowledge for all in the world. So I would like to thank you all for listening and watching this video, and I hope to see you this year as a senior teaching assistant. Goodbye.